Hello and thanks for joining us on the midweek edition of Journalist Hangouts. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. Today on the program, federal government, organized labor make concessions to avert strike as minimum wage negotiation continues. INEC warns Bayelsa politicians against attack on its personnel. And later on the show, feud between Oshiomhole and Obaseki deepens as governor is accused of planning to dump APC. I'll be hanging out with Gani Kayode Balogun, Lekon Shote, and Emeka Madunagu. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for joining us again. Now, endless negotiations between the federal government and the organized labor over consequential adjustments on salary or minimum wage implementation is far from over. But to strike or not to strike seems to be off the card. After the lengthy negotiation on Tuesday, both parties were able to shift grounds and resolution appears to be in sight, while government has backed down on its stance of having 11% for workers on grade level 7 to 14 and now proposed 17%. Labour also adjusted its position from 29% to 25% from workers on level 15 to 17. Government also changed gear from 6.5% to 12%, while organized labor changed its demand from 25% to 20%. Let's hear the outcome of Tuesday's meeting from both parties.
So far, commitment has been shown, but we believe that the areas that are still in contest are critical. And therefore, government are urged to also, on their part, see how they can shift ground positively in order to mitigate the agitations ahead.
There are some gray areas that need to be ironed out. So some documents and information are being sought. Discussions will continue, and we believe that we'll be able to get everything resolved.
So the negotiation is still ongoing. Let me start from you. Yesterday, Chris Ngige was quoted as saying, Minister Ngige was quoted as saying that just the federal government workers, just hovering between 1.4 million to 1.5 million workers in the federal government pay list, that if they should accede to their demands, that at the end of the day, they might end up spending over 33% of the 2020 budgets on paying salaries, paying these workers. And we know that a lot of people will tell you that the budget of 2020 is becoming so unrealistic by the day when you see the reality of that budget. But what I'm saying here is that in negotiating this salary, who should benefit more from minimum wage? There's this debate now that is it those at the lower cadre or it's a salary adjustment across the board?
Anybody who is on the payroll of government should get a decent wage, ordinarily. The law says every worker should be entitled to a decent wage. Now, in terms of who gets more or who gets less, I mean, that's neither here nor there because there is career progression, and you expect that as you move up the ladder, your fortunes should, ascend in the same proportion. But I think one area that even the minister, Dr. Chris Ngige, talked about was the disparities, disparities between what people earn in some agencies, and what civil servants working in core ministries, core ministerial offices earn, that needs to be looked into. And
all
that has been
MDGs.
Yeah, that has been that has been a contentious issue. So, and then again, when you bring in the pay of public officers, aides to the president, even the president himself, the vice president, and the vice president earning hardship allowance, You have Minister Ngige talking about governors earning constituency allowance. I think if the president and the vice president earn constituency allowance as well. And there's some of these allowances. When you calculate these things, that comes, to the pay of a number of civil servants. So if some of these things can be done away with, for instance, the hardship allowance is 50% of the basic pay of the president. And of course, 50% of the president's basic pay is not a joke. Basic annual pay is not a joke. So definitely, if some of these things can be done away with, like Minister Ngige talked about, if it can be done away with or reduced significantly, then the government should also look into those areas where you have those disparities. Because we also have the issue of the disparity between holders of university degrees and HND. Now, I don't know how far the disparities have been taken care of. So there must be a holistic wage review because the minister said there are about, 12 different wage structures in the public service in Nigeria. So all these things need to be looked into and harmonized. I remember when the late Haman Tuko was the chairman of the Revenue Commission, and he talked about, he was trying to justify the hardship allowance and some of the allowances that were fixed. Then he was saying, no, these public officers, they go through a lot of rigor, serving the nation and all of that. And there was an outcry that this adjustment you're making, these concessions you're making to public officers, to federal lawmakers, would, in the long run, cost the nation a lot. But of course, he still went ahead, justified it. The National Assembly at the time backed him up, and then we've seen where it has brought us to. So this is the time now to begin to look at it. The workers, they deserve a decent wage. They deserve to be well taken care of. Because these are people who go to office every day. What they put into their jobs every day, they are the ones who keep the machinery of public service running. So, sometimes politicians, who are public officers, they are away in their constituencies, maybe running campaigns or meeting with their constituents. But the civil servants are there Monday to Friday, sometimes even over the weekends, sometimes even spending long hours to make sure the machinery of governance is running and running very well. So they deserve they deserve a decent pay.
Leko, let's play with figures here because I know that's your forte. And looking at what is on ground, last year, like the projection for the 2018 budgets.
2019 budget.
No, as in for 2019 budget, yes. I just gathered that government just got like 1 trillion naira to spend out of the entire figure, that we could actually not, muster the figures that we're talking about. Now, how realistic will all this, the demand for labor, our overhead, and with our present reality?
First, let me correct what the Minister of Labor and Productivity probably said. The 2020 budget, almost 40% is emolument alone.
40%?
Almost 40% is emolument alone. That's the proposal.
For civil servants or for public officers?
40 billion. 40%.
Wow.
Now,
that's under recurrent expenditure.
Yeah, and I'm also happy that he himself, the Minister for Labor, also admitted that 76% of the entire budget is recurrent expenditure.
76%?
Is recurrent. Is recurrent. So you are having 24% for capital. Now, just this week, over the weekend, the Minister for Finance told us that between January and June of this year, with the expected 4.8 trillion, they got 3.9 trillion, which means that was about 72 or 70-something% of the cash expected. And yes, if you look at the budget, without the approval, the legal backing approval of the National Assembly. The government has already increased the VAT to 7.2%, and it has embedded that into the budget. That tells you the level of desperation. To just, there's something in account that we call force balancing. They have forced the account.
So that thing might not be subject to negotiation, or maybe if you are going to increase that or not.
They just want to force balance the thing to make it 10 trillion, 0.33 billion or so budget that they want to propose. Now, by the time the National Assembly begins to pick holes inside the 7.2% VAT, then there will be a ruckus. There will be serious wahala. And then it will now be looking as if it is the National Assembly that is not wanting the budget to be passed on time. No. That is a booby trap.
I think they have the leadership of the National Assembly.
Oh, please. This is politics now. It's the executive branch playing politics against the legislative branch right now. Whether you are in the same political party doesn't matter at this time. You have a job to do. And the president set a booby trap for these guys, and they know it. So they are going to have to start thinking of how do we get out of this loop. That is one problem that they are going to have to. Now, this negotiation, don't forget, there was a tripartite commission or so, committee last year, which included the private sector, state governments, and the federal government. In this negotiation that we are seeing, where is the state government there? Where is the private sector there? That tells you that this bird is flying with one wing. That's good. Look, the private sector has not even spoken. You remember when they say, what they said they could pay? While the state government said they could pay 25,000, the private sector said they could pay 20,000. Is it 25?
20.5.
20.5. You know, and then the federal government was playing. And then when the federal government came out, I forgot the other, is it the female woman, Mrs. Pepple, Ama Pepple,
yes.
When she submitted, and we thought that was it, the president now came up with another committee that we don't even know where that committee is going. So in summary.
And it's not even white paper yet.
Now, it's not even white paper. Now, the budget is looking at $57 per barrel. Now, you recall, if you have seen the papers, Mr. Putin visited Saudi Arabia. What are they discussing? Oil. America's oil, the shale oil is already in the market. What this is telling you is that the revenue anticipated, even with that $57 per barrel, you cannot be sure of it. And then there's going to be contestation, serious contestation from the private sector against the 7.2%. So right there, I can tell you that this budget is a pack of cards, and it's going to fail.
It's a DOA.
It's dead on delivery.
Wow. Osiare,
yes.
You won't tell me that you are joining Lekon Shote.
No, actually,
it is well with Nigeria.
It is always well with
Nigeria. It is well.
It is
we should not prophesy.
No, it's not prophesying. What Pa Shote is trying to tell us in his own diplomatic way is that we are in the toilet. And to get out of it, we have to be creative in generating income.
That is the word.
And to be creative requires that we all, those governing us and those who are governing, come together and make sacrifices. But the Nigerian elite has nothing to concede. Only today, the president gave out a list to the Secretary of the Federal Government about how people will travel. There's not a travel ban on number of people you can take abroad, on kind of flight you can take. A minister is not entitled to 3 people. A non-minister is not entitled to 4. A business class is not restricted. The very fact that you have to do that shows the fact that you know you have no money. We are living on borrowed funds. And the money we are living on does not even exist. That's why we call it creative accounting.
Somebody said that what we've borrowed in the last 3 years It's more than what you
borrowed the last
borrowed
20.
When this government
30s.
came in, there was $19 billion debt. Right now, we are looking at 90 billion right now.
No, in terms of even foreign debt, I think we are doing 24 trillion.
And don't forget that
4 trillion.
local debts run into about 16 trillion. Most of them will be, of course, regarded as bad debts, or they will be worked on as corruption elements that came into the system and they cannot pay.
That's right.
Because they cannot see what they were supposed to
have
get
done
value
with
for.
the money,
All this, of course. But what we have now is that the present economic team, both the one headed by the vice president before and the new one, have been given what the Americans will call a curveball. There's nothing they can do right now without having to do the needful. The needful is that, despite the fact that we have 1.5 billion federal workers, and out of 200 million, we have about 6 billion public servants. 6 million, rather, public servants. This represents less than 10% of the population. But these people are going to take, based on this negotiation, take minimum of 40% of our budget. Budget is already 76% recurrent. Government has made provision for 200 billion to accommodate this particular concession. But you and I know that will not work in the long run. We are entering 2020. By next year, shale oil will come down to $40. The Russians are trying very hard to ensure that whatever happens in Syria or happens in Qatar will not affect the price of oil. So everybody is trying to keep price of oil under $40. Anybody projecting with $57, waiting for a windfall when something will happen, we have to wait a long time.
Emeka, I think for the first time, the revenue generating parastatals, component of the federal government, they have a mandate to generate like 8 trillion naira. They're talking about Federal Inland Revenue Service, Nigerian Port Authority, talking about Nigerian Customs Service, and all our other revenue agencies. Now, the bottom line is that it seems in terms of revenue, we've not maximized it. Like, let's talk about taxation now. I don't think up to 40% Nigerians, working Nigerians, pay tax.
Do we even know? We have what one of my former bosses used to call a counting problem in Nigeria. We don't know how many we have. We don't know what we have. We don't know how many barrels of oil we actually produce. We have a counting problem. So when people throw out these figures that, okay, it's only this number of people that pay taxes, it's only this number, and I ask them, why not do first things first? Drill down to the actual figures. Work on the data.
What they're trying to say is that they've not optimized the payment. It's not a culture.
No, they don't even have. They don't even have. We don't even have the data.
When a lot of people make money outside government.
We must first of all get the data. Globally, we're talking of open government. We must get it right. Governance must be open, must be transparent. When you're talking of generating 8 trillion, it shouldn't be something that looks like, okay, we wish, like the Christians will say, God will make a way. There should be realistic projections. So that when we now bring God into it, we've made our preparations. We've put everything on the table.
God will just complement our efforts.
God will help us. Yes, of course. Force of nature will, help us. But you see, you also have to look at the leakages, the waste. A lot of these things abound. And then when you talk about the stealing, the corruption, then you talk about all kinds of things, malfeasances. And then some of these reports that come in do not actually reflect the realities on the ground. Okay, the border has been closed
officially
just because of rice, smuggling of rice and cars, and then petrol. 3 items. But what
smuggling of arms, legal arms?
Well, you see, that of arms is a global problem. It's a global problem, and you don't really require to just close your borders, in order to stem that. But that is another issue. The fact of the matter is that even with the border closure, you are hurting the economy because you don't have, free movement of goods and services and people, which is a basic component of international trade. Now, you've tightened the borders.
Suleiman is calling us from Ibadan. Thank you for joining us, Suleiman. Hello, Suleiman. Hello? Okay. You're saying we are hurting ourselves, but at the same time,
because there are products that move
when we had
between
free border, it was hurting us because they were.
No, we talked about creative ways. You see, these petroleum products,
bringing in
these
rice
petroleum products
and,
do not fly from. They don't just land in those countries. Who are the people behind the smuggling?
And that's what they're trying to make.
What has been done to them? The government officials involved in these things, what has been done to them? Who has been prosecuted and jailed for aiding and abetting smuggling? Which top government official? Who has been, these things don't just, you talk about arms, people dealing in arms. Do they just bring these things in you're going to...
like biscuits.
Like biscuits. You see, we must be seen to be implementing the law in a manner that helps to advance general interest.
We are a country where...
Not just not just locking the borders, and then you say, okay, we will continue to keep the borders closed until the other countries realize what they are doing. I don't understand that concept. Maybe there's a concept in international politics
the closure of our border, is it to our advantage or disadvantage?
That's a very good question. First, the Comptroller General has told us that the revenue of the customs has increased by
120%.
Yes, he has said that. But my question is this: do you need to close the borders before you can generate that much?
And is it sustainable?
Emeka was talking about data. What is the population of this country? I want to know. The president has charged the EAC, the Economic Advisory Committee, to begin to look into that direction for planning purposes.
We should not depend on
just be
data.
guesswork.
Yes.
Given by the IMF and the World Bank, because they have their own interests. So that's one. How many of us? Now, let's talk about rice. How many bags of rice do we need? How many metric tons of rice do we need in a day in this country? Now, do we have the capacity to produce it? You and I know the issue of supply and demand. And there's something we keep forgetting. The world is flat, meaning that especially in this economy that is essentially import-oriented, practically everything that we eat, everything that we use to build our houses, talk about the food, the basic things, food, clothing, and shelter. As we are all sitting here, I like to think that what most of us are wearing are imported, practically everything.
Yours is not imported. Yours is not imported.
No, this cap is not imported.
The wool, the yarn, the wool, the thread that was used to weave it, where was it made from? Okay. So we are talking your glasses, your cravat that you are wearing instead of your tie, your biro, this midget, this thing that we are using to talk, this lavalier, all that, where is it coming from? It's imported. The roof of this house, the lightings here, is all imported. What I'm trying to tell you is that we are operating in the same market all over the world. And there's something I'm driving at, that our exchange rate is something that the central bank governor and his group need to sit down and look at. Why do we have several exchange rates to start with? Is it something is fundamentally wrong? Or somebody is trying to make money for some people? That, okay, if you get it at a low rate, then you can go and discharge it at a higher rate. So that is wrong to start with. And then, why would you sell oil at, with hard currency? Do you understand? And then be printing naira for us here. Who warehouses that dollar? Where is the dollar sitting? Then you go and put it in those investment houses abroad. And then you are now telling me that we need money. We don't have money. It's a huge thing. Somebody needs to sit down and look at the monetary policies. Somebody needs to look at the fiscal policies of the country, and then look at the macroeconomic policies and say, This is where we ought to be going. But first, we have to have data. How many metric tons of rice do we need per day? Do you understand? Do we have the capacity to provide? How do we move rice from the farm gate to your dining table? Do we have the railway system? Do we have the busing system? Do we have the transportation system? Is it going to go by waterways? How do we do? Do we even have to have cargo aircraft? Airports in some places like Osun State, so that as soon as you put your bag inside the aircraft and bring it to Lagos, rather than haven't you seen oranges inside of buses driving from Ogun State to Lagos State? By the time they get here, the inside is already spoiled.
Okay, I have Philip calling us from Auchi, Edo State. Thank you for joining us, Phillips. Hello, Phillips.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, I just want to find out this minimum wage, is the security personnel among the minimum wage?
Gentlemen, security personnel.
Well, they negotiate differently, basically. That's what Emeka was trying to say about 15 minutes ago. We have about 11 parallel lines, or 12, including doctors, including some...
the military. Military is asking for...
so that's what I'm saying.
Soldiers.
It's not the same.
The minister has said that these things will be looked into.
They'll look into it, but for the meantime, the very idea of minimum wage is supposed to be the minimum that you can pay a person.
Anywhere
In the country. That means some states can pay, if they like, 200,000.
Yeah, Lagos has said...
But let's also clear it that it is a company that has 50 workers that has that obligation by law.
By law.
Yes.
Okay, Phillips, I think we've answered your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Phillips. Gentlemen, on a final note on this, negotiations still on between the federal government and Labour, and strike is off the catch.
You believe that?
No, they've broken the...
No, immediately the ULC, the Ajero people yesterday said they were in for a strike. That electricity workers, NUPEG and Pegasin.
Those are the backbone of an efficient...
It's difficult for the Nigerian Labour Congress to go it alone.
But Ajero should stop playing such politics.
They have their own center.
You need people... No, you see, they should not bring intra-Labour politics into national issues. You lead people on the line, okay, prepare for strike and all that. And then a few hours to the commencement of the strike, you say, no, we are backing off. They're
not convinced.
Do the Ajero...
If you are not convinced of that strike, they're not justified. They're not convinced.
Then from the beginning,
do the Ajero group think that 30,000 is too much to ask as minimum?
No, that's not what they're talking. They're talking about this consequential adjustments.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what's on the card.
No,
30,000 for both federal government and state Labour. They have a consensus on that.
I read what they are saying, but
what they're saying is that it's going to be detrimental to the economy.
They should have said that from the beginning. Don't just keep doing that to us.
Don't you think that somebody is playing some games and somebody is buying somebody up?
You and I know that government will try to
tried to break their ranks?
But
Isn't that what is happening?
But it's not the first time.
Labour should speak
it's not going to be the last time.
Labour on this issue,
you say, okay, you are going to give government...
their ranks.
If you say you give government...
for some time now, for like 2-3 years,
I doubt Ajero's credibility from this point on. I doubt his credibility.
You know the way Labour should speak with one voice. If you say we are going to give government more time, let it be one voice. You see, even Ajero risks, playing with the credibility of the ULC. Because, you see, that become a pattern over, some years. You prop Nigerians up, okay, prepare for a strike, and then suddenly, a few hours to the commencement of the strike, you say, no, due to...
Are you interested in strike?
It's not about my interest. It's about the national interest. What do
interest
Nigerians
of the workers
want? Nigerians want a minimum wage. So Labour should put its house in order.
The Constitution says government has responsibility to pay living wage. It's written in the Constitution. It's not somebody's
Nobody's
head.
disputing that minimum wage.
So what is Ajero talking about?
Nobody's disputing from level 1 to 6. Consequential adjustments from 15 to 17.
Yes. When the NLC president...
Nobody's
when the NLC president...
minimum wage.
When the NLC president said there will be a strike, Ajero should have come out to say,
no,
let's give government more time.
All right. Still to come. INEC warns Bayelsa politicians against attack on its personnel and voting materials during the November 16 governorship election in the states. Please don't go away. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this breather. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's your multi-award winning program, that Journalist Hangout. We're reaching you live from our headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria, Television Continental. Among the three key players involved in the conduct of elections, polling officials seem to be the most endangered, especially in Nigeria. Amidst the drumbeats of violence trailing the November 16 governorship election in Bayelsa State, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has warned politicians against attacks on its personnel. At a function in Yenagoa, INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu told politicians that the commission will not accept any form of attack on its personnel, ad hoc staff, or voting materials to be deployed for the election. He also warned that INEC will not tolerate the issue of vote buying. Let's start from this attack. We saw something, a trend, a kind of pattern in 2019, that once you can hold the electoral officer, once you can hold him to ransom, maybe you bring out guns to threaten his life, the man might be forced.
It's loved ones.
Yes. Under duress. We've seen some cases they're still in courts.
In Imo State and all that.
No, I don't want us to mention it. Those cases are in courts and everything. So, but the bottom line is that the electoral officer will get to Abuja and they will recount that I actually announced that result under duress. And it's becoming a pattern. Now, when you go to court now, it's very difficult to get judgment in courts in terms of the hurdle you have to scale. So the politicians will now say the battleground will be on election day. So for some volatile states like Kogi, Bayelsa, we know antecedent of the Niger Delta guys, in those riverine area. I was in Brass, I was in Okuma. 4 years ago. 4 years ago, we took, I took a speedboat like 5 hours into the Atlantic Ocean before getting from Yenagoa, getting to Brass, then from Brass to Okuma. It was very, very,
no, you have to understand.
Inside this.
You have to understand the fact that what the INEC chairman is saying is basically true. There are 8 local governments in Bayelsa State. And during the last elections, only 1 local government. The result was declared on time. The 14 other local governments have to wait for intervention at Abuja or things to be done to come in. I think that local government was Kolokuma or Pokuma. That was the only place where the results were announced. And the INEC chairman has gone there to see what did they do that is different from other parts of the states. But like you said, 2 things is happening now. People have realized that it doesn't matter how. Once you have control of the results, anybody can go to court and they will not get judgments. Because the onus is on you to prove that the guy was truly under duress.
Very difficult to prove.
Being under duress doesn't have to be a physical assault. We know in some states where they took the wife and the children with the electoral officer and they were doing video runs to show him that you have 2 choices. And then you become a fatherless, a childless father, or you sign this. And nobody's right mind will pick the other one. And that's why some people are decided today, despite that fact. I think what the man is trying to say is the fact that for such a small state, the level of violence expected per kilometer is huge.
Less than 500,000 registered voters.
So that's where the tragedy is. And even today, they have to go away from the meeting they were holding with the INEC chairman because they could not agree on things to sign that they are going to be of good behavior. Because nobody wants to put their name down. So they can use them against them. Everybody has made up their mind, like you said, that what we are going to do is use all force available and then go to court. That to me is a tragedy.
Lekon, this is worrisome. Even for those of us that cover election, by the time you start drumming the beat of war ahead of the election, you know what to expect.
Well, Ayo, see, there's something we need to understand. The dynamics of the economics. This is a state that, apart from what you get from Abuja, there's hardly any IGR to start with. There's no business going on. So the only business in that town is government business.
Oil, 13% intervention fund,
yes,
in large chunk.
And don't forget that the militants are also in that creek, in that area. Now, where there's nothing to engage you every day, the only thing that can engage you is to if you are not a politician, then you have to be an extension of a politician. That's the only way you can earn a livelihood, either the local government, either the state, and the rest of it. There's nothing happening. There's nothing. Even individuals who have hotels, if you go and ask them questions,
they rely on government patronage.
Government patronage. There's nothing quite happening. So it's not just politics now. It's their livelihood. It's an existentialist issue that is confronting these guys. So we need to first understand that.
The stakes are high.
The stakes are it's life. It's their life.
Do or die.
That is a do or die thing. So people will do everything. It's a high stakes. People will do everything to be on the winning side. And if you now have to be violent to be on the winning side, some of these guys are prepared to do it. If they have to kill somebody, if they have to tell the youth corper, who is the presiding officer or whatever it is they call it, and say, listen, youth corper, you better do this, otherwise you will not go back to see your parents. What do you think youth corper will do? He will simply, some youth corpers have told me.
Actually, they went to the extent of killing
yes.
the core members.
So that tells you something, that we have to look at the economy of that environment first, and that is the problem. That is the major issue that we're looking at. Yes, I appreciate the chairman talking. I'm sure he's a civil servant. He knows he just has to talk, so that he doesn't look as if he has.
Nothing is done.
No, he knows the stakes. He knows it is much more difficult than the way he has put it.
Because some of these electoral officers, they will have to go through rough topographies, travel,
5 hours,
Atlantic Ocean,
water.
And coppers, people, the electoral officers that they brought from Abuja or some other part of the country, and you have to contend with militants locking behind in 1 or 2 creeks around. You have to contend with a lot of things. So it's going to be, security there is going to be challenging.
Yeah, of course. And then the government is going to move a lot of soldiers, policemen, civil defense from areas, from hotspots to those to Bayelsa for the election. Now, leaving those areas vulnerable. And we keep repeating this cycle. You see, that's why we talk about that governance must be more transparent, more open, and more creative. We cannot keep using the same solutions, because what we end up doing is that we unwittingly enable those who want to disrupt the system. So they prepare ahead. Of course, they have a game plan. They always have a game plan. So the Inspector General of Police says, okay, we are deploying 30,000 policemen. And then they have an idea which areas those policemen are likely to be deployed. Oh, okay, the Chief of Army Staff says, we're deploying this number of soldiers. The head of the civil defense says, right? Now, these guys are constantly around. Some of them are also imported. So they know the terrain better than security agents. They know the terrain better than the INEC officials. So what do? They ensure that those areas where they expect to rig the elections, where they expect to do ballot stuffing, are heavily occupied by the violent elements. And then you now go to the collation centers, where you have the core problem, where the figures are collated. And then overnight, interesting things happen. So we must, first of all, remove the incentive in politics. We must incentivize politics as a means of livelihood. It should be more of a service. But what do we have is a career. It's a means of survival. It's a huge means of patronage. I know it's a global thing. I mean, politics is a means of patronage globally. But we must remove some of the incentives that encourage the rigging of elections, violence, killing of people, destruction of property. We must remove these incentives. People must also respect the electoral process. Otherwise, we're just joking with the future of our country. And then the judiciary should help this nation. Some of the kinds of judgments we've seen from the election tribunals, they leave a lot to be desired. So far, no governor has lost.
How about that thing that it is what you bring to courts
No, the onus is on you to
the
prove.
judgment.
The point, but
the judges will not go the extra
senators
way.
have been removed. Reps have been removed. State assembly
Small
lawmakers have been
constituencies.
removed.
Small
Small
constituencies.
constituencies.
For the entire state, you have to prove.
in the same
You have
group
to
of
prove.
elections.
It's more difficult to prove the entire state. It's more difficult to prove for the entire country.
Now, those are the questions we need to begin to ask ourselves. What is the future of the electoral process? What is the future of the country if we leave those things to be like that?
All right.
Ayo, let me add
Quickly, we have to round off.
that the minister representing Bayelsa State is a former governor, which means he's a grassroots person. And as a minister,
I think he's the DG of the campaign.
he has access to resources. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
Minister of State for
He was a
Petroleum.
former governor. He's Minister of State for Petroleum. He has resources to contest the political space in Bayelsa State. That is why the stakes are very high. It is sincerely, APC is geared to take on PDP, and the PDP will not concede easily. These are the issues that we need to understand.
Interesting. All right, troubling times are not yet over regarding the crisis rocking the Edo State chapter of the All Progressive Congress, APC. The two camps belonging to the two arrowheads in the crisis, Governor Godwin Obaseki and the APC national chairman, that's Adams Oshomole, are leveling accusations and counter-accusations against each other. Another squabble arose when Oshomole accused the Governor Obaseki, of planning to create crisis in the APC and probably dump the party for another. For the special advisor to the governor on media and communication strategy, Crusoe Osage, has countered the claim. He says the governor has a cordial relationship with leader and members of APC in the states. Gentlemen, I thought the last Ramadan, was it Ramadan? I saw Governor Obaseki going to Yamo in those states, a surprise visit to visit
the country home of
Adams Oshomole, exchange pleasantries, saw videos, captions, all smiling and everything, and I thought at least the tension should be doused. So for Oshomole going home this weekend claiming that he was attacked, and the Commissioner of Police was saying that no, he wasn't attacked. And
It was a protest.
I don't.
That's what I mean.
I don't get it.
Semantics.
Two reasons. Despite the photo op that we saw during the Eid al-Kabir, you and I know, I will said it on this program, that the fundamental differences have not been resolved. And until that is done, all this is just going to be drama. And what's the main point of contention? The governor has inaugurated the State House with about 6 people during the wee hours of the morning. Majority of those in the house have not even been seated, not to talk of functioning. When they met, it was assumed that they are going to make concessions, that maybe the governor will redo it, or they will ask the speakers to
issue a
down.
fresh proclamation
Until
as advised by the
yesterday,
National Assembly.
The status quo that was there when they were taking this picture remains. That means the man went to court, he got a judgment, the party has not moved in, the National Assembly, which threatened to take over the otherwise have not moved in. And he thinks he has the upper hand right now. And that's why he's doing all these things. And he has the right. If the Constitution says, or the law says, that you can remain in office, if there's a crisis within your party, why can't he exploit it? A lot of people have done that in the past. It's not peculiar to Obaseki. It's not going to be the last. Create deliberate discontent within your party.
So that you have good reason.
You have good reason to move. And then you stay in office. I think it's going to be interesting because it's taking on the National Working Committee of the party. And I'd like to see how this one will end.
Don't you think politicians are somehow, I don't know, look at the smiles, look at the, the way they're bantering, all smiles and hugging each other. And at this point, when I saw this video, I felt that, the tension would have, at least this will go a long way in dousing whatever tension has been between Obaseki and Adams Oshomole. You can just see, look at this. And don't you think politicians are funny people?
In my MBA class in America, one of my lecturers told me, he says, all the things we are teaching you here, accounting, finance, management, marketing, it's okay. But I implore you, go and read history. Go and read literature, read Shakespeare. You will see the treachery of human beings. You see mischief by human beings. You see how people will be smiling at each other and then they will stab each other at the back. Do you understand? This is what is being displayed right here. What it tells you is that I think in international relations, they say there is permanent interest. There are no permanent friends. There are no permanent enemies. And this thing is like quicksilver. It changes. Once your priority changes as you go by, as the days go by, you can, if you hold the word of a politician, you are doomed. It is what finally comes out that you can hold on to. But whatever it tells you, we will do this, we will do that. Once something else comes up and he has reason to change, he will abandon you straight away and move on to the next thing. This is what is playing out.
Obaseki seems to be very sure of what he's doing and is unperturbed, if, even at the expense of his predecessor in office and the national chairman of his party.
Yeah, he's a governor elected by his people with the mandate of his people. So he must exercise that mandate. It doesn't matter whoever thinks he has to put the governor in his pocket. And that is the problem Obaseki has been having in Edo State. Some prominent indigenous of Edo State wanting to dictate how he will run the state. And he has said he will not bow to their wishes. He has said he will run the state according to the mandate given to him by the good people of Edo State. And I think they should allow this governor.
Wasn't he thinking of that mandate when he was riding on the back of Adams Oshomole?
Yes, somebody has. You see, that's politics. Yeah, it's about consensus.
Of, the people.
Fine.
Because there were very popular people that Obaseki contested against. He contested against a very, very popular Pastor Izeyamo. Do you understand? And he took Oshomole to battle the forefathers of Edo State to his
what extraordinary thing did they do? Are they trying to tell us that there are things they did to get Obaseki into power that we don't ordinarily know about?
I don't know about that.
Fine. So you helped him get into power, allow him to govern. Because the state is suffering. As long as the governor remains distracted, the state cannot make much progress. It's a fact.
GKB, is Emeka sounding realistic?
No, Emeka is an Edo man. The reality is this. We can pontificate all we want. The reality is that politicians will always be politicians.
Oh, sure.
And based on that reality, the people of Edo, one way or the other, will suffer the consequence. Whether the governor is kicked out or because what I see, I've said it on this program, is the fact that you are taking on.
Okay, I have a caller from Edo State. I think I want to hear this caller out. Thank you, Etiosa. Thank you for joining us.
Hello?
Yes, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good evening.
Okay, what do you make of the crisis between Governor Obaseki and Adams Oshomole?
Well, it's very unfortunate because as it is in Edo State, the people solidly, okay, let me speak for myself actually, are behind Obaseki because of what he's doing as regards to the fact that he's not ready to share the state resources with some touts and all that, because in Edo State here, where during Congress time, the richest people in the state were touts. People were celebrating billions of naira, the first billions in 6 months in this city. And those people that were celebrating it are billions and all that. Now, Obaseki said, no, Edo State money is for Edo State. Edo State is paying debt, which Oshomole is aware of, and all that. So the fight definitely now is like on auto destruct. It's going to make political state. That's just a fact.
It's also, I didn't get you.
What he's saying is that the governor insists that the resources will be for Edo people. But you and I know that if a new governor comes in tomorrow and they open the Pandora's box, you and I know that some people also will be indicted for making money under this administration. So it's really not either or there. It's not really what this is about. This is about the control of the soul of Edo politics going forward. And once Obaseki wins, that's the end.
But this is just intra-party. There's election next year, And PDP is a very strong party in Edo State.
That is the...
If you check out the presidential election results and check out the National Assembly results in 2019, you understand what I'm saying. Even in 2015,
that's the locus of this argument. That's why the Oshomole camp are crying that they wanted to defect. Because he has a strong platform.
It's PDP now.
That he can live. A governor in some states cannot dare this. Because the structure is one party. You can't dare this in Enugu State. You can't even dare this in some states in the north.
South.
That are limited in their scope politically. But Edo is always 50-50. The onus is on whoever will get the nod. 45, 55, along that line. I don't also forget the ethnic dimension to this. Obaseki is from Benin. And there's a Benin man, and that itself
they have the highest voting strength.
Precisely. And Oshomole is from a minority area.
Okay. No, he's not contesting.
It doesn't matter.
He might just look for somebody
platform that they are going to
control a governor from a
So you cannot run away from that. If Obaseki were to be from a minority tribe, we may not be talking about this particular fight. But he knows that he has the people of the largest senatorial district behind him. And they can fight the battle up to the point where you can.
Sometimes I will tell you that it's not necessarily like that, because Adams Oshomole actually contested against Major General Arawa Way, one man from Benin, in his second term, and he actually
came in.
There are forces.
And
the past structure. You know, even Oredo local government, which is the core of Benin, is controlled by PDP.
Yeah, but I don't doubt that.
So that's just like what GKB said. It's 50-50. But I think Oshomole should try to build consensus. He has been Labour leader in Nigeria. He has been governor. Now he's national chairman. He should be more like a father. He should not go direct for the, he should not go for the heat. He should step back a little and see Obaseki like a son, like his protégé. It should not be a shouting match, an exchange of, come on, he has come of age. He should be someone that people come to for advice. People come to for guidance. Fine, if the governor has refused to heed your advice, you leave it to the people of Edo State. They know what to do.
Well, I don't know. Emeka, say, Oshomole is a politician. He must have a base. If he doesn't have a
national player,
to be yes. If he doesn't have okay, look at 1999. Somehow, General Obasanjo became president, but he was an orphan in the Southwest.
Yes.
He had to play all the games, including treasury, including mischief, to ensure
he got the Southwest.
Conciliations, everything.
Except
because you are talking at Abuja. Haven't you heard people say, "Oh, these are Abuja politicians"? I'm sure you've heard of that several times. So I understand the dynamics. I understand what Oshomole is trying to play at that. Look, even though I'm the national chairman, I also have a constituency, and I'm strong in my state. But this is not to say that you are not going to be telling the government or the governor to become Father Christmas with the state, the Commonwealth. No, I don't buy that.
You can't substantiate that because you've not listened to Oshomole.
Yes, yes.
He wanted.
I'm referring to what has come between the two of them.
They denied those allegations.
Yes, I'm discussing about what has come between the two of them. What people have, the governor has said, I'm not going to be throwing out the people's resources to other people.
And Oshomole's associates have said,
and they said no.
We didn't ask you.
But you and I know what politics is all about. At the end of the day, politics is about appointment. It's about political parties are formed to advance private interests at the end of the day.
Ultimately, that's the key.
But Edo State is suffering. So Obaseki should be allowed to govern the state. They can sort out their personal squabbles, but they should not allow those squabbles to keep the state grounded.
I have a feeling that until the National Assembly takes over the Edo Assembly, we will not have a solution.
They may not. They've gone to the appeal court, but where will it take them?
Because until that is done, and everybody is now back to the table, because right now, Obaseki holds all the cards.
Yes.
All right. Emeka Madunagu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, viewers.
Lekon Shote. Thank you. I appreciate you for coming. Osiare Gani Kaide Balogun GKB. Thank you.
Always
greeting to the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of the organization that
I'm sure he's listening to you right now.
Nigeria.
He's a big fan. He's a big fan of
Journalist Hangout.
the program.
And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on our other platforms showing on the screen. We are also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. See you tomorrow, and God bless Nigeria.